I think it takes a lot for companies to come up here and tell you about their journey, right? Because they kind of have to open up and say, hey, this is what we went through. So we absolutely appreciate the plugs for one, but we appreciate them coming up and presenting. Next up, we're going to have Steve Cross. He is an Atlassian partner manager. He's going to talk about what a company or organization looks like with DevOps fully running already inside. So as he's getting mic'd up, he'll come up and present on that. In the meantime, wanted to let you guys know that there is a raffle at the end of the day. So make sure to take the survey that will be going around, because you'll get additional raffle tickets if you didn't already get one at registration. And there's also a demo dartboard that you guys, again, might have saw going in the galley. And those who get the highest score will also get raffle tickets. So it's a good idea to participate. So without further ado, let me introduce Steve Cross.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi. My name is Steve Cross. I'm the America's Channel Manager with Atlassian. That means I work with the partner managers and the partner team. And we have one of our most eminent participants in the partner team here, Pat Anemone, who covers the East Coast. So what I'd like to talk about is the culture of innovation at Atlassian. And I think that it's already been shown that the move to Agile, Agile transformations are somewhat dependent upon culture, and frankly, so is the transformation to DevOps, also dependent upon culture. So who are we to talk about this stuff? Well, Atlassian's got a really unusual culture. Unusual and, well, we'll talk about it. We're considered one of the best places to work. We've been #1 in Australia for year after year, I think 3 years running, and we're the #2 best place to work of medium businesses in the United States. And after being at Atlassian 5 years, it's like, yeah. It really is. We're not kidding about it, and people aren't kidding about it. It is a really spectacular environment and spectacular culture that's been built. So this is a warning. There may be a little profanity. I have a reputation for utilizing probably a little more profanity than I should, but I've been working on it, and I'm doing a lot better. However, there are a couple of things later on in the presentation, and I'll be gentle with you. So what's innovation? Well, innovation is, okay. Sometimes innovation is timed really poorly. So this is a Newton, an Apple Newton. I had a Newton. It was an incredibly innovative product and a dismal failure. However, it made possible this little guy, the iPhone, okay? Because out of Newton came iPhone. And innovation sometimes works like that. There was a chemist at 3M that came up with the idea of, well, he really didn't have the idea. He was trying to create a really tacky glue, and instead he came up with a glue that barely held at all. And he couldn't figure out what to do with it. Another chemist and engineer thought, well, is there a need for glue that doesn't work really well? And he came up with the idea of painting it on the back of these sheets of paper. And then he started handing it out at 3M until finally he's got the whole outfit hooked on these what became Post-it notes. So sometimes innovation is a little accidental, and sometimes innovation is just stupid, okay? Just stupid. So we talk about culture. Well, what is culture? Culture is sort of a fluffy deal, and stuff that makes people happy, beer pong and ping pong and pool tables and all that, that's really not culture. That's just stuff that we have in the office or stuff that you have in your office. But that's not culture. What culture really is, again, it's fluffy. What culture really is all of these ingredients that make a great culture. Having great tools, having great people, having flexibility. I was asked by one of the co-CEOs, why this is such a great place for me to work in. And it's not just the flexibility, but for me it's the latitude. I've had real senior titles in my career. I'm not at that part of my arc now, but I'm too old for that. Anyhow, but I've never had so much latitude to do the right thing, to do the next right thing all the time. And that's very special, and I think that comes with culture. So there's a bunch of, latitude, time and space, flexibility and latitude, frankly, time and space, whatever it says on the slide. So, and you have to be passionate about the work. And I think you'll find that Atlassians are really passionate about what it is that they do. So, our culture of innovation. It's this guy's fault. Frederick Winslow Taylor. He was one of the first management consultants. And before the assembly line, before automation, everybody was just everybody. Most people were self-employed. They were shopkeepers or whatever. But along with the beginnings of industrial production and mass production, people were divided into doers and managers. And that's where the whole problem started. So you had all these doers, and then you had these so-called thinkers, managers, and they were separate, and everybody was separate. Nobody talked to each other, and you get these silos. But times have really changed. It's not what people are looking to do. They're not looking to stick components on a circuit board or put pieces of a rifle together, which was actually the very first mass production assembly line, was putting pieces of rifles together. Cars were much, much later, much later. Henry Ford did not invent it, if anybody doesn't know that. I'm from Detroit. He didn't invent it. So, and work has changed, right? We're not doers, we're thinkers. We're doing work because we like to do it, because it's interesting to us, because we have passion about it. And we do work because, well, it pays the rent, but also we do work for different reasons than we used to, and that creates different work. There's so much automation of the low-level activities that we all used to get paid for. I mean, I've been around a long time. I sold key punch machines, for God's sakes. And you know, some of us remember that. It's like the Dark Ages. I also rode a dinosaur to school. In the snow, uphill both ways. So, and people have changed because their expectations have changed, right? Everybody's expectations of what work is in their life, of what the culture of their company can deliver them, can bring them, can advance them personally. So, companies change really slowly. A lot of companies change very, very slowly. The old days, speaking of dinosaurs, you know, Fred Flintstone, okay, well, here's a funny one. That used to be primetime television in the United States. The Flintstones was on at 9 o'clock at night. People watched that on one of their 4 stations. We've changed a lot here. Anyhow, so the steam whistle would go off, and Fred would yell, "Yabba dabba doo," jump off the back of his dinosaur, which was used as a crane for lifting things, and he'd jump in his hand-driven car, foot-driven car. That's just not the way we work anymore. You know, you've got the Incredibles, and you've got people that really do heroic jobs at work. They create something out of absolute nothing. And they do it out of innovation and passion. Work is way different than it was when Fred was around. So, frankly, you innovate or die. You have to keep moving forward. That's true for companies. That's true for people. We have to grow, and we have to reinvent ourselves. And so, how do you innovate? How do you get your people to innovate? What do you do? What are your megaphones? How do you broadcast this out? You can offer them dough. You can offer them money in their paycheck to innovate. That's an awful motivator. It's terrible. It actually, it doesn't work, right? It's proven that it doesn't work. So how do you motivate people to innovate? Well, you give them time. What we do at Atlassian is we actually give them 20% time. And with that 20% time, they can work on side projects. They can also work on charitable projects through the Atlassian Foundation. We get 6 days a year to work on nonprofits. It's a really cool thing. Okay, so give them time to try their own ideas. And I think that goes back to that latitude and flexibility I talked about that's made this really satisfying and fulfilling to me. And I think that makes it satisfying and fulfilling to a lot of people. And we came up with this thing which we now call Ship It Day, but we didn't used to call it Ship It Day. We used to call it FedEx Day. And we would give everybody 24 hours to think of something sort of cool or different or something to fix a problem or a long-standing bug or an idea. And actually, we have someone in the room that's a winner of Ship It Day. Lynn was on a 4-person team that won 3 years ago at Atlassian. And I thought it was a spectacular win, actually. It was a really neat idea. Anyhow, every quarter, we knock off for 24 hours, and it's sort of nuts. People work all night long. Sometimes they work till 11 or midnight, come back at 6 in the morning. Some of them sleep in the office. I mean, they really work all night, and it's pretty exciting. But we had a problem. We called it FedEx Day because it, absolutely positively has to get there overnight. And we got a cease and desist from FedEx. They weren't really thrilled with it because when you searched in Google, when you searched FedEx, we came up before them. That prompted a cease and desist from their attorneys, so we changed it to Ship It Day. And the whole company does it every single quarter. We just had it Friday. There's a global all-staff going on in 2 hours where they're going to have a shootout for the 2 finalists, and they'll announce the global winner of Ship It for this quarter. And I'll stream it tonight. I'll watch it afterwards. But it's pretty exciting because they come up with these crazy cool ideas. Let's see, you were on a team with Adam St. Prix, you, and I don't remember, Jeffy McMillan? No? Who else was on that? Anyhow, Lynn's a winner of one of these things all night long. First, they started with a brainstorm. They had an incredible idea. They hacked the crap out of this idea for about 24 hours, and they presented it in the San Francisco office to the whole company. It was really very cool. And that's the way it works. And you show your idea. Some of the ideas are really stupid and not as bad as the selfie stick, but some of them are really bad. But we give everybody the chance to do an idea. I led a global team to do one that didn't interest anybody but us. We didn't get a single vote. I don't think we even voted for our own. That was about 1.5 years ago, but we had a lot of fun doing it. Anyhow, so this one Ship It, they came up with a universal translator for HipChat. It sort of works, but it's really a crap product. Anyhow, we're not going to ship that one, but they actually got it working a little bit. That's a sort of a neat thing. So the whole key is you actually have to ship something. You have to make something that actually works. The project I was on, it worked. We shipped something that really did work, and I thought it was cool. Anyhow, there's a pride of place and there's a pride of achievement, and only the winners get that T-shirt. So those are very, very rare. There's only a couple of them given out every quarter. It's a very neat thing. So Amazon has something similar, and they use a Nike shoe. It's this beat-to-crap shoe that's been roaming around Amazon for 10 or 12 years, and it's given to the person or persons who really exceed, really go above and beyond, really almost redefine their job and position during that quarter. And it's a big deal. So we talked about how you get people to innovate. Well, you can't just throw money at them. That doesn't work. You can sort of give them time to work on things like we do. That works. But bringing innovation to the masses is really challenging because ideas can happen to anybody at any time. There used to be national advertising for Hewlett-Packard where they came up with ideas in the shower and on TV. That was really powerful advertising when HP really remembered who they were. That's a long time ago when they still knew who they were. When innovation happens, you give it an opportunity to grow, and you build culture of happiness. I don't know if I buy that. I think it's a culture of togetherness and a culture of community. We do these family and friends days at Atlassian where we go to the ballpark or do. Last year, there was a global thing in every location where, God, I'm glad I was out of town for that. Because it was this like obstacle course thing. A couple people blew out their knees, and I'm too old for this crap. Anyhow, so, and we do team building. And in fact, we recommend team building not for a global team, but for your little team. And that team building could be anything. It could be celebrating a win by going out for a beer if you drink, for a smoke in a legal state if you don't drink. We also do an end of fiscal year party. We do globally, we do end of fiscal year parties in every geo. We're in four geos. And we also do a holiday party in January. And those are done in every geo. So again, stop and celebrate the team wins. Every little team win should be celebrated. How am I doing on time, Lynn? Doing okay? Thank you. Good. So we also recommend and fund team offsites, and we're really big on that. Pat and I were involved in one in Atlanta where we had to escape from a room. Remember that? Yeah. That turned out to be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, none of the men would ask directions.
That was pretty funny. Anyhow, you can bake a cake. And in fact, we've had teams that bake cakes for the whole office. That's sort of fun. But any kind of celebration works. And the other thing we do at Atlassian, which I think aids the culture immensely, is we celebrate rock stars. We hand out kudos to people. Company pays for it. We can send $25 kudos to anybody in the company without permission from any manager. We just log into kudos and select somebody. I had one delivered today in Amsterdam for a guy that has just really been a big help. Every time he has an opportunity to help, he does so. Boris, you remember Malik Mungier? Absolutely.
I just saw him a couple of weeks ago.
Yep, terrific guy. And so we do these kudos. We also do big kudos, up to $500. In the Austin office, Pat and I were putting together a mastery camp for our partners, and a bunch of these guys were there from AdTech. And the fellow that helped us organize it just did an amazing job. And I sent him a big kudos. I didn't mean it to be $500, but maybe $100. Anyhow, they sent him a $500 one. He was pretty happy. So, we celebrate ourselves. We celebrate people internally that help the culture, that help other people, that play as a team. In fact, that's one of the values. I'll talk about the company values in a little while. And so, how happy are you with with yourself and your team? We actually survey. We do these surveys every quarter just to see if people think that they're being listened to, they're being heard, that they're doing good work, that it's being acknowledged. We do these surveys, we take them really seriously. That's sort of boring and slow. For a long time, we had an iPad at the door, which you would just hit to say whether you've had a good day or a bad day, and we would actually measure those. It gave you a real-time display of how everybody in the office was doing. That was fun, but that got sort of old. Here's how Spotify did it. They had 91% of the people that were happy at Spotify. So they decided to talk to the other 9% and find out why they weren't happy. And just by doing that, they raised it from 91 to 94 because people at Spotify found out that other people actually gave a rat's ass about them. And that was pretty important. So 94% happy. And culture is being one team. So making sure that new people fit into your culture. So we can recruit to build a cult like they do at Uber, or we can recruit to build a culture. And I think that we think it's a lot more important to build a culture than a cult. So, So we used to call it the beer test, right? You interview a candidate, would you want to have a beer with them? But frankly, not everybody drinks, and depending on the culture and that they come from. So we now call it the sidewalk test. And if you ran into somebody on the sidewalk, would you want to have a conversation with them or avoid them? So we use that. Yeah, we use the sidewalk test to determine whether somebody should be a hire or a non-hire. And then once you do hire them, you have an obligation to make sure they fit in. If you're an employer, if you're building a culture, if you're building a team culture, it's your job as part of that team to make sure these people feel like they're cared for, right? We do it in really funny ways. We use one of our products, Confluence, and we have a big installation of Confluence internally. Everybody in the company's on it, and we blog constantly, incessantly, about everything that's going on in the company. That's addressed in the values, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, don't hire for a cult. So we hire people and get them into the culture. So that guy you saw a little while ago, we give him a buddy when he comes in, right? I had a buddy who took me out to lunch my first day just to make sure I felt comfortable. Everybody that starts gets a buddy, and the company pays for that lunch. It's just a sort of a nice thing. So you feel like you've got somebody you can talk to, and you can reach out to that buddy anytime. We also have this beer bike, which I customized mine a little bit. So they drive around a beer bike, at least in the Atlassian office in San Francisco, and hand out at 4 o'clock on Fridays and hand out beer. I customized mine. I put a lot of snacks on it. And then I put a loop of Money for Nothing. I don't know why, by Dire Straits. And I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if anybody else thought it was hilarious, but I really did. That's a long time ago. That's 5 years ago. 12. What the hell's 12? Oh, natural team size. Yeah, fine. I hate these number things where someone says, what do you think 150 is? Well, 150 is the amount of names you can remember. Great. It's called Dunbar's number. I think it's BS. But you can actually maintain stable relationships with about 150 people. So if you have 450 Facebook friends, 300 of those people, ditch them. So you get to anonymous workplaces when you've got more than 150 people in any particular silo, and you get silos like that. I worked at Silicon Graphics a million years ago. I've never seen a more siloed outfit with more anonymous people. It started out as a great outfit, and they lost track of their culture. They lost control of their culture, and they ended up going out of business. $3 billion business went out of business. That's crazy. Anyhow, so how do you overcome the silo problem? Well, you bring people together, bring everybody together. That same anonymous guy that was hired, that's what he really looks like. In his blog post, that guy's like an accountant, and the picture is of what he does in his daily life. And he posted a blog about all sorts of personal stuff, and that's what we do, so that people get to know you and get to know who you are. And then you start conversations from that blog post and you get to meet people. And we try and be really transparent. I'm jumping through some of this stuff. All right. Yeah, fine. Okay. So I mentioned a little bit about we have a all-staff. We have an all-staff every Thursday. It's global. It's every single office in the world of Atlassian. It's 2,200 employees online at the same time. And the founders generally talk about stuff that's going on. Various managers talk about breaking announcements. That's how we found out we bought Trello. The day before it was announced, we found out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That was pretty cool. So, and people put up questions, and the rule is that the founders are obligated to answer the questions. Some of the questions are really odd, but some of them are really interesting, and they really do share information. It really is an open company. So let's talk about that transparency. Let's talk about the open company. People work differently than they used to. They used to sit on the subway and read papers, and now everybody's reading their screens, but they're also commenting, right? They're not just reading their screens. They're commenting, they're participating, they're sharing in the culture. All right. So we've gone from a slow, closed environment to a fast, open environment. Atlassian's done a really good job of that with HipChat. We're all on HipChat. I have 2,200 people on my HipChat. I can reach out to anybody, anytime, ask a question, they can ask one of me. I can get in conversations because we've got team chat rooms, right? You can establish team chat rooms, find out what the other teams are doing, and it's integrated with everything we do, so you find out all sorts of stuff that's going on. So before I finish, I'd like to touch on one other thing so that HipChat connects the entire organization. I'd like to touch on company values because every company's got something they print on a wall that no one ever looks at, nobody ever thinks about. Atlassian actually has company values that the company lives by. And those were actually in our IPO offering document. And here's where the swearing comes in. So one of them is open company, no bullshit. And we really do mean that. You can tell anything to anybody. This is all about how you get a culture all the way across the world with transparency in 5 geos and keep it going. All right, so yeah. All right, so here's the way we say it. We say it open company, no bullshit. We say don't fuck the customer. We say it in writing. It was in our IPO offering document. I think people were absolutely freaked by that, but it's the truth. We talk about that in meetings. You know, if you're going to make a living by trying to screw the customer, you're not going to be making a living for a long time. We play as a team, and that's across teams, and I think those kudos actually help to engender that playing as a team. Being able to give people awards just for being a team player. It's really important. And then be the change you seek. Don't just show up in front of a manager and say, look, there's a problem. Show up in front of a manager and say, look, there's a problem, and I think I've got a solution. So be the change you seek, and then build with heart and balance. I'm going to end with one really interesting, to me, story. I hope you find it interesting. Building with heart and balance. When we went public, the 2 founders had been on a round-the-world roadshow, and city after city after city talking to investors, getting it ready. When they showed up in New York at NASDAQ to launch the company on NASDAQ, they were exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, and the one co-founder, they had staged parties for the next day, starting the next day, all across the world in all 5 geos. And the one founder, Mike Cannon-Brooks, couldn't do it. Couldn't do the parties. So unbeknownst to him, the other co-founder, Scott Farquhar, had brought Mike's wife and kids from Australia. They were waiting for him in his room. And he didn't have to go to the parties. That's building with heart and balance. And everybody saw the blog post about that. He got something like 1,700 likes on a company that at the time had 1,900 employees. So that's building with heart and balance. That's one of our values. And I honestly think that the way you really build a culture in a company is with values. So all this other stuff, I think, is window dressing. Values gives the culture stability. Values gives the culture value. And value to the people that are there and value to the customers, frankly, because I think it's evidenced by the company's success that we really do deliver value to the customer, and we do it by way of our values. So, and we actually remind ourselves of those values, and it's all over every Atlassian office, and it's all over everything we do. So. One more thing. There isn't any one more thing. That's it. Yeah, that is one more thing. Culture stays. Products come and go. Lord knows, they all evolve. They all evolve, some of them go away, but culture stays. So thank you very much.